Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Green Party of the United States, GreenStream. I'm Gloria Mattera, co-chair of the National Party and co-chair of the Green Party of New York. And I am here today going to interview fellow Brooklynite and City Council candidate, Green Party candidate for District 35 in Brooklyn, Jabari Brisport. Welcome, Jabari.
Hi, Gloria. Thanks for having me.
Terrific. And so just to give everybody a little background, we are actually broadcasting live from Jabari's campaign office, a great storefront office right in the heart of Crown Heights, which is one of the neighborhoods in his district. And we'll hear a bit more about his district in a few minutes. And just want to let people know that not only is Jabari one of the Green Party of the United States candidates to watch, so you may have already gotten a little bit of information about him, but he's gotten just awesome media coverage, local, regional, national, TV, radio, print. So we're very excited to have him on. And so, Jabari, tell us a little about who you are.
So I'm 30 years old. I grew up in Brooklyn. I was born here, and I live in a brownstone that my grandmother bought back in the 1950s or so. Back when I want to say there was white flight in the neighborhood going out into the suburbs, and now we're seeing a white return, which is a funny phrase I like to see with the neighborhood. Although I'm not, I believe there's room for everybody in the city. But I love this neighborhood. I love this district. One of my favorite things is the Caribbean food, and I'm also an artist and an activist and a teacher.
Terrific. And I know you've done a lot of activism work. Maybe talk a little bit about that and what became the turning point for you to decide that activism could turn into an electoral campaign for yourself.
Yeah, I would say I got my first start with activism. I mean, I come from an acting background, theater background. So my first start was making a spoken word piece on same-sex marriage, which I did at NYU while I was going there. I took it back to my high school, even had students telling me it gave them the courage to come out of the closet. They thought the piece was very powerful. And I was using always theater for social change. So I also had a group called Artists for Change, which we fought gentrification while I was at NYU. And what we would do is we would go out into the streets and do a site-specific theatrical performance and use that as a way to get signatures for the community board to fight rezonings and fight the construction of luxury apartments in the East Village. And I would say one of my favorite pieces was this thing called Derivatives, which I devised with some friends at Yale, which was exploring income inequality. And it was a bunch of things. It was interviews, it was games, but ultimately what we used it to do was to raise awareness and then to get a bunch of emails to sign people up for a website called Kiva, which allows people to give microloans, $25, $50 to small business owners in developing countries, help them get up on their feet.
Ah, great. What a great initiative.
Yeah. And how that got me into actually running. Yeah, I mean, and aside from that, tons of activism. I mean, I was been to plenty of rallies and plenty of marches and helped organize marches and organize draft petitions, get them signed. And around last year, I got kind of frustrated with doing that and decided I would do a more traditional approach to politics, which involves being a politician, I guess.
Great. Well, and I know you've had some involvement in other campaigns. You were active in the Sanders campaign. You were active in Jill Stein campaign, which is how I met you initially. And, I think what's really wonderful, what I feel comfortable in the Green Party is because you can continue to do activism and be part of movements, but that electoral piece is really very important, that the movement should drive that electoral campaign. And I think that's really happening for you. So tell us about the district. What's this district like?
This district is a beautiful chimera. I mean, it's, you talk about income inequality, and this district is such a microcosm from that. It's everything from extremely wealthy brownstone owners in one part of the district to people living on minimum wage or unemployed for extended amounts of time. In other areas, there are pockets of extreme wealth and places where there's extreme displacements from gentrification and from the evictions, and it's been interesting to try and thread those two extremely different communities. And it's what I've found, honestly, going around and looking at the message, there is something very uniting about the notion of local control, giving people power over their own community, regardless of how much money they're making.
Oh, that's really interesting. You sense is this a district where there's neighborhoods with a significant amount of tension, whether it's kind of the have-nots or people of color or, more often white people coming in to gentrify? Has that been something that's been an issue here?
Yeah, I mean, in Crown Heights, there's been tension between the Caribbean community and the Orthodox Jewish community. There's a pervasive perception amongst many Caribbeans that the Jews are buying up all the property and kicking people out. And what I found as a message, which really speaks to people, rather than looking at it through this identity-based lens, is to remind people that I don't think gentrification is caused by white people or any race in particular. It's caused by capitalism and the price that we put on land and the way we commodify and speculate on properties, as opposed to just ensuring we have housing as a human right.
So true, right on. And as you know, the Green Party is actually in their
Yes.
platform
Yes.
on economic democracy. Eco-socialism talks a lot about that. And so, and I've seen you put that into practice in your campaign and around the issues. And so tell us your issues. What's happening in this district? What are you going to change when elected to city council?
Okay, cool. So the top thing is by and large housing, and that's not even just a poor person's concern. I've have people making minimum wage scared they're going to get pushed out of their homes. I've had residents making $80,000 a year saying that they're feeling squeezed too by just the fact that rent is too damn high. So housing is by and large the hot button issue of the district, probably the city, probably any city in America. And what I would like to do is to I have to fight with the state, but also fight for more rent control and rent stabilization of properties, but also just taxing terrible practices. So one thing my campaign is putting on the table is a vacancy tax. It's a tax on empty units which aren't being utilized, which honestly hurt the market and raise prices. The other one's a property flipping tax, so that if somebody wants to buy a property, kick everybody out through whatever way they can, and then flip it and sell it for millions of dollars, we'll tax that since they only held on to the property for a year. We'll fight that practice, and we'll use those funds to subsidize much more affordable housing so people can actually live in New York. And I've also just proposed just going on the offense against developers. I mean, part of the establishment politicians in the city is that they'll pat themselves on the back for 100 units of affordable housing here, saving 2 tenants here or there. Meanwhile, there are thousands of people getting evicted, and the homelessness crisis has gone. There are over 60,000 people homeless that are countable in the shelters, and then the uncountable that are sleeping in subways, sleeping with a friend. So it's unconscionable to me that you have developers really making millions of dollars, sometimes some of them with net worths of in the billions, while we have a homelessness crisis. So going on the offense against them as opposed to the defense.
Yeah, those are really great issues, and great proposals. And I think we see certainly in our borough in Brooklyn, the gentrification, the catering to developers. Hey, 30% affordable housing, and but that means 70% are going for market rate.
Yes.
And so you really, I think, pinpointed kind of the issues with your two proposals, the vacancy tax and the flip tax, putting the brakes on greed that really comes through around the real estate market here and I think everywhere throughout the city, probably and beyond that. Absolutely. And what are the issues?
Other issues? Yeah, I mean, another big thing for me is police reform. And, I've done a lot of stuff with the Black Lives Matter movement. As part of my activism was a group called Artists for Change that drafted some petitions for police reform, also organized marches after the shootings in South Carolina. We marched around to historically black churches around Harlem, singing songs of resistance from the 60s. And even more recently with Black Lives Matter of Greater New York, whose electoral arm, the Black Lives Caucus, has endorsed the campaign. Together, we went down to Charlottesville to speak up for Black lives and take a stand against white supremacists that were down there to roll our country back 50 years. And so going back to police reform, I mean, people talk about community policing, which I think is good, but ultimately what I want to do is leapfrog that and go to something that's more like community-led policing or community-controlled policing. So some of the policies I'm putting on the board are, we have a civilian review board for complaints, but it's appointed by a lot of, by politicians and also by some of them, the board by the police commissioner. So I want to transfer that to an elected civilian review board that's accountable to local communities. And another thing I want to do is slice off some of the NYPD's budget through something called participatory budgeting, which would allow local citizens to vote on how some of the NYPD is spending their tax dollars, which people are super excited about. They started talking about putting social workers on the force, or more body cameras, or trainings, or having police just come into schools and not as enforcers of the law, but people just talk to to kids about what their rights are and how to conduct themselves and deal with the police and explore what they're entitled to. And another thing too is just to make sure that in New York City, police officers live in New York City. As right currently they're allowed to live in the city or in like the surrounding counties. So you end up with the majority of white officers actually not living in New York City. They come from Island or Westchester, come into our district.
Right. And have been separate ones or that you've been able to respond to or you've been talking to people about when you're out canvassing?
Real recently, there came up, it was a big expose over some NYPD, a woman with sexual assault charges, the NYPD. But aside from that, too, what's come up a lot is gun violence. And this ties into police reform because there's a knee-jerk response, especially in older members of the community, to ask for more police presence in response to these, which I see as a Band-Aid. I mean, ultimately, I would like to get at the roots of gun violence, which I see as our poverty and toxic masculinity as well. I mean, we need stronger role models. I'm happy to be a black male running for office. We need stronger role models for our young gentlemen, and we also just need stuff for people to do in the community. These sorts of shootings, I always say, they don't happen on the Upper East Side. They don't happen in Copper Hill. They don't happen in the wealthier parts of our city. We need better after school programs for our children in these communities, and we need a better jobs program for people in these communities.
Yeah, I think I was here doing some street work when someone said, well, what are you going to do about and for, what are you going to do about the kids on the stoop? And I think really turn that around and say, well, what are we going to do for them? What should we be doing for them? What's our responsibility? And I thought that was really responsive to an older person in the community who maybe feels unsafe.
Yeah.
But also, I think looking out for, what's the youth in this neighborhood? What's their future? And
what's been great is that we've actually been, in response to that, looking for more things for the youth, we've been able to hire some of the youth to work on the campaign. So we have tons of canvassers going out too, but we've also used some of our budget to do paid canvass. We've been restricting it to people like local kids from the community, in their late teens, early 20s to go out, and $15 an hour. They're knocking on doors. They're excited. And fun fact, I believe that putting money in the hands of teenagers is the best driver of the local economy because, you give money to a teenager that's going to get spent like right away at the store across the street. And I think that's really good for small businesses too.
Yeah, well, as a mom of a teenager, yes, I would say that is true. Just in case people are tuning in late, just want to let you know that this is a Green Party of the United States GreenStream. I'm co-chair Gloria Mattera interviewing Jabari Brisport, the Green Party candidate in City Council, District 35. And so since this is the GreenStream, so why the Green Party? What made you come to the Green Party? What has you running as a Green Party candidate?
Yeah, I really fell in love with the Green Party last year. I mean, I was a Democrat. I was working hardcore in the Sanders campaign. I heard about Jill Stein, looked at her policies, thought it was great, looked at the Green Party's platform, realized it was closer to what I wanted to see from the world than the Democratic Party, and I switched over. I mean, it was the only party that was anti-capitalist. It was the only party that was calling for reparations for black people, the only party that was calling in for a massive reduction in the military budget, and it also on so many points it worked better. And even just like as I've been in the party and learning things that like how internally democratic it is, like I was able to submit an idea for the platform of the New York State Party, which is something that can never happen if I were a Democrat or Republican. They're not internally democratic. They're controlled by insiders. So that's been something that's great. It's a great move. It's a party, but it's also a movement and something I can really be a part of and be proud of.
Terrific. And, just your thoughts about the importance of independent political campaigns, electoral campaigns in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to have a party that's free from corporate influence. Like, it's important to have a party that does not take corporate donations because those corrupt the political process. And it's also important to have more than two parties in the country. I mean, two parties for 300 million people. I mean, it shouldn't be any wonder why more than 50% of Americans want third party, or why so many people don't vote because their interests are not being addressed. So we definitely need more than one party, more than two parties, and definitely one like the Green that takes no corporate money.
Terrific. That's great. And speaking of, while we're on the topic of the Green Party candidates do not take corporate money, talk a little bit about the financing of your campaign. What's maybe a little different in a New York City council campaign and maybe in other ones, and you know what the needs are now, what you've been able to accomplish so far, and what the needs are.
Yeah, great. So what's really great about New York City campaign finance, it's fairly progressive. So we have a great matching funds program where anything donated from a New York City resident up to $175 is matched 6-1. And our campaign was lucky enough and fortunate enough to get enough attention to qualify for that and raise enough to max out on matching funds. We raised over like $20,000 from New York City residents, which means we got the full $95,000 or so from the city. And what's also great about New York City campaign finance is that you're limited in how much you can spend. So you're capped at $180,000, which means that somebody can't just raise $1 million and spend it all on a campaign. And funnily enough, our campaign currently has more cash on hand than the Democratic incumbent that we're going up against, because she kind of blew a lot of her cash on the primary and is like coasting now in terms of fundraising. So we are in this to win this, really.
Right. And then, but of course, now that you've maxed out, donations are still possible and needed, and they can come from where?
Anywhere. They can come from anywhere now. I mean, you can still donate, and it'd be great. I mean, what we're trying to do now is we have tons of volunteers. I've been super fortunate. Tons of volunteers going out every day for the past week and knocking on thousands of doors. But canvassing has its limits, and what I really want to do is to get into people's mailboxes. So I want to send a mailer out to around 60,000 voters in this district, which is going to cost we have to raise another $20,000 or so, which I think we can do.
Right, and a piece of mail is really important. Yeah. I mean, I love the fact that you're door to door. I have seen it. Jabari's out himself every day. He will not take any evening appointments. I'm out canvassing. He will tell us when we are asking for certain things, and a lot of people are out helping him. But of course, getting a mailer, touches people that are not home. We know that during the primary in this district that almost people were kind of like besieged with mail. But I think one professional piece of mail, which having the kind of donations and the cash that you're able to raise because of the program. Although I will say one thing about the campaign matching program is right now, I think it's one of the best to fund candidates from smaller parties, alternative parties, like the Green Party. But people can opt out of that at times. And so, of course, you get a billionaire like Bloomberg running, not having to enter into that. And so obviously, as Green Party members, we promote a much higher level of oversight and public financing. But we're very proud that you to do that.
Yes, it's been very exciting.
Yeah. And maybe are there any other campaign strategy or ideas and things that you're doing that might be good for people to hear, especially people who are thinking about being candidates in the next election?
Yeah, totally. I mean, aside from knocking, and we're also doing phone banking. And what's really great is that we were endorsed by Our Revolution, and which means we don't have access to their data, but they opened up their dialer, and they have around 4,000 people in the district who are progressive Democrats or just left-leaning that were interested in Bernie, but now they can be called to support this campaign. And I've heard great stories from volunteers who are calling people that hear and like, oh, I didn't know about that campaign. I'll volunteer. That sounds great. And we also have tons of numbers from the Board of Election, like around 10 or 20,000. So we'll be opening up phone banking on our end too to spread the word about the campaign, get on, getting people at their doors, in their mailboxes, on their phone lines, just getting the word out. And it's important too, I think, just to look for like press attention. I mean, I've been super fortunate, and it's kind of snowballed. I mean, it started out with local outlets that were interested, and then who's this green socialist candidate, and then it picked up, and other outlets wanted to hear, and more and more wanted to hear. I ended up on Fox News, so, and outlets like The Intercept and Vice. So that's been really fantastic, and also just relying on your local state or local Green Party, for guidance, and being able to work together with them is always helpful too.
That's great. That's great. And so just a little bit, because it sounded like so much fun, and unfortunately I missed this one, but I will be at the next one, is talk about the Jabari Jamboree that just happened this weekend. Yeah.
So we're doing these Jamborees now, which is just a collaboration. I mean, there's been several groups that endorse the campaign: the Democratic Socialists of America, Socialist Alternative, and like I said, Our Revolution, and the Green Party has been super helpful. So what these Jamborees are, we get as volunteers from every organization together, and we all pick one big spot that's really dense, and we all just canvass the hell out of it. And this Saturday, we picked some public housing projects, which hold around 8,000 people between them. And we had about 30 to 40 people out that day, knocking on around 2,000 doors. And it was fantastic. And there were bagels in the morning and pizza in the afternoon, and just a lot of yeses to voting for the campaign. So I was very, very happy.
Great, that's great. Now, you talked a little bit earlier about homelessness, and of course, some of your proposals about addressing, kind of the housing concerns here, people being priced out, people losing their homes. I also know, I don't think you mentioned this earlier on, but your some of the work you do is in education. Yeah. And kind of a rather, kind of a really infuriating, heart-rendering article came out earlier in the week, or maybe late last week, that 10% of school children are homeless. And I don't know what your experience has been with that, or kind of, the impact between homelessness, education, all the things in this city that are falling apart and are ignored because of the greed of the politicians.
Yeah, I mean, it's very unfortunate, and it just ties back into finding quality, affordable housing that's truly affordable for people, so that we not just have homeless students, homeless children, we have this really awful new class of people called the working homeless, where they're working jobs, sometimes a full-time job, and they're still homeless. Which is just it's the paradox of capitalism. But it's tough. I mean, you hear stories of coming out not in New York City, but Miami, of just bringing a washing machine to the school, and that increasing attendance because they had lots of lower income or homeless students that were not coming to school because their clothes were dirty and stinky and they were embarrassed. But doing things like that just to acknowledge the fact that we do have a crisis keep going on here. So we need to address it. We need to address housing, and in addition to housing, just being an educator, what I specifically teach is I teach tests. I teach standardized tests, the SAT and the ACT, and all the good ones that kids and parents and everyone loves to hate, and including myself, because I think there are better ways. They stress everybody out. They stress out the teachers in the room. They stress out the student, their parents, everyone. And there are alternatives. There's passive testing where every time a student does an assignment online, you get a little bit of data about their progress. There's ways to do a small representative sample of the student body once a year, and then a different body, so it's not everyone getting tested every so frequently. So there are alternatives that I'm looking to explore so we can move beyond high stakes testing, because it also exacerbates racial divides. And I say that as someone's been teaching SAT for 6 years. People that can hire a tutor do better, and people that can hire a tutor are one demographic versus those that cannot.
And what in this area, in your district, are there any particular environmental issues or kind of citywide issues that you're talking about in your campaign?
Yep. Specific to this district, I don't know if I can see on this. We have the map behind us. I'm not sure if you can see, but right above my head is a neighborhood called Fort Greene, and Fort Greene is a really beautiful park called Fort Greene Park that the city is currently. The plan is to do something called Without Borders, which would involve taking down some of the stone wall around it, leveling some trees, and making a big, ugly paved over plaza, which would theoretically allows a better view of this spire that's in the middle, but also allow for some commercial market spaces to be there. And a lot of residents are really pissed about that because there was not enough community input on the project. And also a lot of people, myself included, think the money could be better spent. It's like $7 million. Could be better spent on just basic maintenance of the park. I was in there the other week just cleaning out glass out of the dirt, out of a dog walk, so the dogs wouldn't get glass in their feet. And another resident told me that there's some drainage issues along the side of the park where, the rainwater collects in the summer and breeds mosquitoes. And picking up glass and helping for proper water drainage, I think, are better than cutting down trees and just making a spot for more, market space. And then citywide, I would say, aside from Fort Greene Park, the biggest push of the campaign is to divest the city of fossil fuels. We have billions of dollars invested in fossil fuels in our pension fund.
Yeah, and that's certainly been an issue the Green Party on the state level has also been doing. So we really thank you for taking that up as something important. But really, how deceitful. I'm listening to this because when someone says we're going to have a park without borders,
right.
It sounds like, wow, it's there'll be park everywhere for everyone. But the true plan really sounds awful.
Yeah, it's people have come up to me. I've had residents just walking around the park to all the things they would miss in the plan, all the things that would be gone that they would be upset about.
So what is about being able to? I know that park well also, but just to see this fire? Like, what is this a?
Yeah, well, I mean, part of I guess the theory of it is that like the park is more inviting to people on the outside if there's no wall around it. But I don't know. I like going into parks to feel protected from the city around me. So I like the wall. I like going out and then having the wall hold the city out. And then, oh yeah, on the northwest part, there's like there was a beautiful spire in the middle of the park, but I mean, you technically can't see it from the trees, and I kind of think it's cool. It's like going to the secret garden a little bit. You know, you get your way through the trees, and then, oh my gosh, there's a big hill and a spire in the middle. And, you know, the part of the plan would involve making that visible from the street. And I kind of like that it's hidden, like going into the park and being in a separate world in the city.
Is there anything that you want our viewers to know about the campaign I didn't ask you, or, kind of your positions, or, kind of what else is really stands out for you during this? You're a first-time candidate.
Yeah, I would say, and just going back to if you're thinking running a campaign, don't be afraid to be bold. Like, people are ready for something new. I had people literally tell me they want somebody to come in and FS up, just mess things, screw things up a little bit, in like a good way possible. Shake things up, really. Bold ideas. Like, people are clamoring for that. I was told, like, I talked to someone who has like a ton of experience in local campaigns and worked for a senator and everything, and her big thing when I first started running was not to be too radical, and I threw that out the window. I've been coming out guns a-blazing, saying I'm an open socialist, a Green Party socialist. I was told that word would scare people away. It's not scaring people away. It's actually gotten me more attention. People are interested in what that means. So I think being bold with their ideas, not holding anything back, and people will admire honesty even more so than whether or not they fully agree with you. I've had Republican supporters in this district. I had literally had a forum where I was saying I'm a socialist every 10 20 minutes in it, and afterwards a Republican constituent came up and was like, I really like you. I want to take you around and show you some of the small businesses I like and introduce you to their owners, because she admires honesty even if they don't agree with all your policies.
And I have to say, just from my own experience, coming around and talking to other people, is like people really see you out in the street. They see your volunteers. Mm-hmm. People are really open to talking, and really, what's wonderful is it's a great street campaign, which is possible for a local campaign. Although people should know that a New York City district is huge.
Yeah, oh my God, it's the size of a city. It's my district is 180,000 people. So in most places in America, I'd be this is the equivalent of running for mayor. I'm just running for mayor of my district.
Right, and so obviously we want to put in a plug for Jabari, for people to help him if they can, to get that $20,000 to put a piece of mail in all those voters' districts that he has not been able to get to yet at the door. Please, yes. You should give people your website before we start to wind down. Yep, it's
Jabari2017.nyc. So that's my name, the year, and then where we are. It's Jabari2017.nyc. You can go there and you can learn more about the issues and go to the contribute page and donate what you can, and we'll get the $20,000. We'll send out 60,000 pieces of mail throughout the district, and we will win in 3 weeks.
That is awesome. And just another thing I really like what you're doing is, because you're out in the street a lot, is Jabari's on his Facebook, and he will interview people or take photographs, or at the end of the day, I know I can go to Facebook and read some anecdotes of people you meet in the street, and what they say to you, or they see you and they recognize you. You have any parting little tidbits for us that came up recently?
People are attracted to fun. I mean, politics can be very, especially when some of it's so super depressing. Like I'm talking about 60,000 homeless people here. There's a gun violence epidemic. There's stressed students from high stakes testing. There's a problem in the park. There's a lot of ways to get depressing about it. But if you maintain a message of hope and optimism, people are attracted to that. They want to believe in something fundamentally, despite like how awful and disgusting last year's political race was between the two major party candidates. Ultimately, people are attracted to hope, and they're, not to quote Obama, because I'm a green now, but people are attracted to optimism, and they're attracted to the belief that the world can be better. So looking for ways to share that it is fun to join the campaign, and it is fun to actually go out and just talk to people. That's a great way to build followers and build people that are interested in the campaign.
And you registered a new voter on Saturday.
I registered a new Green voter.
Texted me her photograph.
I did. Her name's Destiny, and she is a Green Party member.
Yeah,
No.
that's been awesome. So, well, it's been great talking to you.
You too, Gloria.
And, thank you. We want to remind everybody once again, it's the GreenStream for the Green Party of the United States. I'm Gloria Mattera, National Party co-chair, talking with Jabari Brisport, Green Party City Council candidate in District 35 in Brooklyn. We want to thank Craig Seaman for his technical support and expertise. And please go to gp.org because you can see previous Green Streams of great candidates, Green Party leaders, Green Party activists. Learn more about the Green Party and our 10 key values. And of course, if you like what you see, please get involved by volunteering or donating. So good night, everyone.
Good night.